Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a look ahead to this weekend's Eifel Grand Prix. Yes, for the first time since 2013, Formula 1 returns to the Nurburgring and I for one cannot wait for this race. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this has to be one of my favourite F1 circuits and I'm so pleased to see it make a return to the calendar, even if it is just for 2020. Fingers crossed it can stake a claim for a permanent place on the calendar. Let's just briefly look back to that 2013 German Grand Prix, as already said, the last time F1 visited the track. Now, the race followed the British Grand Prix, a race where 4 drivers suffered tyre blowouts, and that led to Pirelli making changes to the structure of the tyre compounds in time for the race in Germany, introducing Kevlar-belted rear tyres for the event. I still remember it very well. It was the massive talking point going into that weekend. Lewis Hamilton had taken pole position on Saturday for Mercedes. We've said that a few times since then, haven't we? With Sebastian Vettel second for Red Bull and Mark Webber third, and it was those two who breezed past Hamilton to take first and second place by turn 1. A couple of talking points from that race included Mark Webber being released from his pit box early without his rear tyre properly fitted, and that tyre bounced down the pit lane and hit a cameraman. Fortunately, the cameraman was okay. And Jules Bianchi, bless him, his engine blew up, and after he had left the cockpit, the Marussia began rolling down the track and that triggered a safety car. In the end, it was a race that Romain Grosjean felt he should have won, but it was Vettel who took victory with the Lotus of Kimi Raikkonen in second place, just over a second behind, and Romain Grosjean ended up in third place. Before I look ahead to this weekend, let's have a look back at the Russian Grand Prix and how the championship tables look ahead of round 11. Well, once again, Sochi didn't exactly throw up an absolute classic, but I do still think it was better than some of the races we've seen at Russia. That said, it's not really set the bar especially high in the past, has it? The massive talking point, though, before the race had even started was centred around Lewis Hamilton. As I'm sure you'll all remember very well, the Brit would start on pole position for the race. However, after carrying out practice starts outside of the designated area, he was handed 2 separate 5-second penalties. And despite pushing hard in the first stint, Hamilton couldn't build anywhere near a big enough gap to his teammate and ultimately ended up third behind Max Verstappen and race winner Valtteri Bottas, the Finn controlling the race extremely well to take a much-needed victory. Behind the top 3, Sergio Perez and Daniel Ricciardo enjoyed strong races, finishing 4th and 5th respectively, the Aussie keeping his position despite a time penalty, of course, and there were also points for Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Daniel Kvyat, Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, another driver, who landed a 5-second time penalty for failing to follow the race director's notes regarding the Turn 2 runoff. And of course, there were no points for Carlos Sainz, who left Russia rather red-faced after hitting the wall at Turn 2 whilst trying to rejoin the track. And all of that means that the championship tables look like this. Lewis Hamilton is still top of the Drivers' Championship, but just 44 points clear of Valtteri Bottas now. Wow, isn't it getting close? With Max Verstappen third on 128 points for Red Bull. Lando Norris still in 4th place there for McLaren on 65 points, 1 clear of Alexander Albon in 5th, who is just 1 point clear of Daniel Ricciardo in 6th. Somehow, Charles Leclerc has scored 57 points this year, the same tally actually as Lance Stroll in 8th, with Sergio Perez 9th on 56 and Pierre Gasly 10th on 45. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes continue to cruise to another title, 366 points for them, 174 points clear of Red Bull in 2nd. McLaren are 3rd on 106 points, 2 clear of Racing Point in 4th, with Renault just 5 further back in 5th. Ferrari are on 74 points in 6th, with AlphaTauri in 7th on 59. And then we've got Alfa Romeo in 8th on 4 points. Haas have got 1 point in 9th, and Williams are yet to score down there in 10th place. Right then, enough of all of that. Let's have a look at some of the stats for the Nürburgring, starting with the track itself, which is 5.148 kilometres long, which works out at 3.199 miles, and consists of 15 corners, some of them very iconic. The race will run for a total of 60 laps. There will be 2 DRS zones, one down the start-finish straight and the other between turns 11 and 13. And the lap record, although not listed on the F1 website, is held by Michael Schumacher with a 129.468, which was set all the way back in 2004. What a car that was, by the way. In total, 40 Formula 1 races have been held at the Nürburgring in its various iterations. And over the years, 27 different drivers have gone on to take victory, Alberto Ascari being the first all the way back in 1951, and Sebastian Vettel the most recent in 2013. 24 different drivers have taken pole position, with the great Jim Clark holding the record for the most poles at the track with 4, and there are only 2 drivers on the current grid who have taken pole position at the Nürburgring before, and they are Kimi Raikkonen, who's done it twice, and Lewis Hamilton, who set the Saturday pace the last time F1 visited the track in 2013. Once again, these stats have been provided by Lights Out blog, so thank you so much again to them for allowing me to use them in these previews, and you can of course find a link to their website down in the description. The tyres available for this weekend are middle of the range, so that's the hard C2, the medium C3 and the soft C4. And interestingly enough, Pirelli boss Mario Isola says that they are approaching this weekend as if the sport had never been to the Nurburgring before, simply as it's been such a long time. And so the reason for going middle of the range is to hopefully cover off every eventuality, playing it safe if you like. But without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest talking point is set to be the weather, with cold temperatures expected, and yes, rain is currently forecast to hit the track across the weekend. Now, at time of recording, rain is expected for all 3 days at the Eifel Grand Prix at some point, with highs of just 8 degrees Celsius expected on Sunday. Quite simply, as if this weekend wasn't set to be exciting enough, the weather looks as though it's really going to help spice things up even more. Strategy-wise, well, the track hasn't been massively demanding on the tyres in the past, although Kimi Räikkönen might argue that point. And I think we can expect to see teams do all they can to make the one-stopper work, but with rain possible, in fact you could even say probable, all strategy planning kind of goes out the window. It could be anything from a 1-stop to a 5-stop, who knows? Even Pirelli are not committing in their preview to how many stops will be this weekend. And do you know what? That's absolutely fine. I'd much rather go into a weekend having no idea what the strategy is going to be than know 100% we're probably going to get a 1-stopper. The safety car is something else that could mix strategy up, but it hasn't really been a factor at the track in the past, with it appearing just 4 times. So that's once in 1999, once in 2006, and twice in 2007. And just super quickly before I get onto my predictions, there are a couple of things well worth noting ahead of this weekend. Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott will both be making their FP1 debuts for Alfa Romeo and Haas respectively, so that is something definitely to keep an eye out for tomorrow. And let me know in the comments section how you think they'll get on Friday morning. I know it's only practice, but still, let me know how you think they'll get on. And Ferrari will bring updates to its 2020 car this weekend, and according to Motorsport Italy, those updates could include changes to the barge boards, rear suspension and possibly a newly designed diffuser. Racing Point have also confirmed that both Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez will run the team's most recent updates this weekend. Right then, it's time for some predictions, and this one is really hard to call. Now, obviously on paper, we're probably looking at a top 3 of Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen in some sort of order if we go off recent races. But for the millionth time, Formula 1 has not been at the Nurburgring since 2013, and a lot has changed since then. The track is also very traditional, and as we saw at Mugello, that can cause some unpredictability. I say some, Mugello was chaos. I'm not necessarily expecting that again this weekend, but it will be unpredictable to a point. Plus, the weather looks pretty rough and it will be cold, so I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton for pole, but I am going to take a punt on the race here and say Max Verstappen for the win from Lewis Hamilton, 2 drivers who you'd expect to excel in the rain, and I'm actually going to go with a surprise podium for Sergio Perez as well. No, I've not been drinking, but although rain is forecast at times across the weekend, there is still the possibility it will stay dry, and actually, if we are expecting rain, it usually does stay dry. But Pirelli have warned that the colder temperatures will mean drivers have to do some tyre management as a result of what they're calling cold cracks in the tyres. And one thing Sergio Perez is very good at is managing tyres. And I'll say this as well, Lance Stroll, we've talked about this before, is very good on cold tyres too, so don't rule him out. What I'm essentially saying is there is some sort of method to my madness. I mean, look, I'm not as daft as maybe some people think I am. Chances are it'll be the usual top 3 up there, but I'm getting bored of predicting the same thing every weekend, so Checo on that podium. Elsewhere, I'm going to go with Racing Point as best of the rest on pure pace, but as always, it's just far too close to call, and I fully expect Renault and McLaren to take the fight to them for some decent points this weekend. And although it is his home Grand Prix, I'm not really expecting anything special from Ferrari or Sebastian Vettel this weekend. But in all honesty, I would absolutely love to see him shock us all with a mega result. I really would. All in all though, I don't know if you've noticed, I just cannot wait for this weekend, and I really do think we could be in for an absolute cracker, but do not blame me if I've just jinxed it. I'm just an overexcited idiot after all. That is it though for the Eifel Grand Prix preview then, but you can as always let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of this weekend down in the comments section. Who have you got for pole and who do you think will win the race on Sunday? What's your top 3? Now, I will be back across the weekend with more content, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.